souls. Welcome to another show on Living Naturally with Michaela Live, where we talk about all things about living a naturally healthy life. I am Michaela, your host, and today I'm joined by my good friend and co host and recurring guest, Angelica del Carmen, who is our resident spiritual guru. So I'm so happy to have her here with us today. Today, we're going to be talking about fun and play in your spiritual development and your spiritual growth. So I know that you probably think those things don't go together, but we're here today to tell you that it does. Okay. So before we get started, though, let's talk a little bit about spirituality, and just that word spiritual seems to sometimes invoke different feelings in different people. And when you hear the word spiritual, many people immediately go to religion or something along that lines. And spirituality isn't always just religion. For some people, it is their religion, and that's fine, that's okay. But it's not really about religion. Spirituality is more about what feeds your soul. What, it's deep down and makes you go, what makes you want to do what you do. That's what spirituality is. And, Angelica is a great person to have this discussion with because she does have the spirituality talk show, for those of you who don't know. And we're just going to jump right in. Okay. So first let's start with um, this whole concept of playfulness in spirituality. And you can think of playfulness more along the lines of it being like this high vibration activity that fosters healing and connection, not only with yourself, but others around you and the world and the universe. And so the whole concept of play and being able to enjoy really kind of enhances your spiritual connection and that whole spirituality. So that's what we're going to be here to talk about today. So before we jump into our big discussion, let's hear from Angelica, see what she has to say about what spirituality means.
Well, thank you and hello. And it's basically what you just said kind of in a nutshell. You're right. Spirituality, people look at it from whichever different way they want to, and that's perfectly fine. Because many were raised in one religion or another, or maybe atheists completely, they maybe shy away from the word spirituality. And I love the fact that we're going to talk about like the playfulness and the joy of it and the happiness of it, because spirituality, in whatever sense, doesn't have to be boring. And if you know anything about me, I'm always like, let's have fun, let's do this, let's do that. Because our spirit, and that's for me what spirituality is. What lights up our spirit?
Yeah.
Whatever lights up our spirit is fun for us. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with bringing that into the conversation and day-to-day life.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, so this is, like I said, this is going to be a very interesting conversation, particularly because Angelica comes from the more spiritual realm and I'm the more practical and sciencey girl, okay? And there is a science to all of that too. And we're going to jump into some of that as well. So, let's start with the role of joy in spiritual practices. So, joy enhances our spiritual connection. And so, joy also helps like shift our nervous system into what we call the parasympathetic state. Okay, so now I'm getting like geek girl,
Nerdy.
science girl. Okay, and I'm going to break that down a little bit more for those of you who are going, huh? So basically, it helps us get to this more relaxed state, if you will. And when our nervous system is in a more relaxed state, it actually helps foster healing and spiritual connection by bringing us down a notch. Okay, so when you think about everyone has heard about cortisol, and we know how stress produces cortisol, and it puts us in this fight, flight, or fawn state. Okay, that's when you're like going into this very stressed, rigid state, but joy helps you shift out of that. So, one of the things that joy can do, not only with the whole spiritual aspect of it, it can also help reduce that cortisol, which helps you go to a happier state where you're happier. So you're less stressed and you're happier. And then when you're happier and you have more joy, it allows you to reflect inward a little better without all of those stress blocks. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about. And there is some science behind that. I mean, it just is. Okay. Sometimes when we're talking about things, a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's so woo, 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 woo. And sometimes it is woo, but there's also science behind the woo. Okay. So, so we're here to kind of bring it all in together. So, Angelica, what are some examples that you can share where either for you or for your clients, where you found that an element of joy has helped deepen spiritual practice?
I think I can say maybe not even one client in particular, just in general. Let's talk about meditation, just to like
Okay.
start building a case. Like you said, many people are like, oh, meditation is so woo. Meditation is just slowing down our thoughts.
Hmm.
What happens when we slow down our thoughts? Our brain goes into the, okay, I'm not going to get eaten. The stressors calm down.
Yeah.
Um, and you are able to connect because your brain is giving you the, okay, I don't need to be watching for the alarm in the truck and the, no, I have the time and the space and the peace to be able to find time within myself. Once we reach that state, it's so much easier to find joy. What I find with my clients is typically all of us, because I'm not excluded from being a human. We all have issues. When we bring ourselves down to the state of being, okay, I'm calm in that meditative state or whatever it is, then we can ask ourselves, okay, what is joy? What does bring me joy?
Hmm.
And just the fact that I can remember, like, I'll just say it really quickly. There was one client that she looked at me and she was like, I know theoretically what the word means. I have no idea what brings me joy in life. And I'm like, okay, then that's your homework. Try something out. And if it doesn't bring you joy and happiness and you don't feel giggly, don't do it again and just keep trying.
Yeah.
She finally came back and she was like, oh my God, I found this makes me happy. And her whole life started shifting. Why? Because she actually felt happy.
Yeah.
There's no huge mega piece to try to figure these things out. We complicated it.
I totally agree. Yeah. We complicate it. That struck a chord with me because yeah, like meditation, that's actually one of my favorite things to do. And I often recommend it to my clients as well as just kind of a daily practice. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard, oh well, I don't know how to meditate. Or what is meditation? And as you said, meditation is just slowing your thoughts down. Meditation can be something as simply as just sitting quietly and just like listening to yourself breathe. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be like this big ritual practice or something. Exactly.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all that. Yeah, some people do that. That's fine. It doesn't have to be that. I have some clients, and actually I was the same way for a long time, and sometimes I am still that way, where my brain just constantly talks. It just constantly talks. So no matter how much sitting quietly that I do, my brain just keeps talking. And I find that sometimes when that's the case, sitting and listening to music actually helps me more. And so it's not being quiet, but it's interjecting something else in that slows down that process. And I particularly like to listen to classical music because there is like a mathematical element to it which appeals to my analytical brain, so it really calms me down. But it's like it can be any kind of music that
Yeah.
you find joy in. I love listening to 80s music, so it's like put on some 80s disco, and I can just that calms me right down too. It's about what brings you joy and comfort and what can bring you into that lower state where you can reflect inward. So, yeah, absolutely. We complicate it. We just make it just more difficult than it needs to be. What's the old acronym? KISS, keep it simple.
Come on, say the last one. Say it.
Okay, I generally don't use that word. I taught my children never to use that word, so I'm not going to say it. But, so we don't use that word. But
Okay.
you all know what it means. You all know what it means. And don't pretend that you don't.
No, and it's true. We overcomplicate things, and we even overcomplicate joy.
Yeah, exactly.
This is too
Exactly.
much joy. This is not enough joy. Really? Like,
Yeah, that's the overthinking. It's
mm-hmm.
overthinking, just overthinking everything. And I admit I am guilty of overthinking things a lot myself. And it's just human nature. And that's the reason why we need to take these small moments to just bring ourselves back down out of that heightened state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
So, so now the next part I want to talk about, and this is about how we can view spiritual growth as a playful journey, because we're talking about joy and playfulness in the spiritual growth. But a lot of people, when they think of spiritual growth, they think of like this heavy topic and this very ritualized thing, and it's very somber. And yeah, some of it can be somber, but it doesn't always have to be. So the first thing I would like to do is I'd like to challenge people to, rather than think of their spiritual growth as as a serious linear process, to maybe think of it more as how do I want to put it, as a exploration rather than a serious linear process. It's like explore what where you find joy, explore what feeds your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Use it as a time for exploration and development rather than, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, and it has to go along this trajectory, and I got to follow these guidelines, and I have to follow this checklist. Curiosity, curiosity and healing, that kind of thing. What do you think about that?
I agree 100%. And I think in my mind, what happens is, or the way that I see it, when we talk about spiritual growth, I think we compare it to like school.
Mm,
Like you have to go from one grade to the other to the other. And you're right, it's heavy. It's like, oh my God, it's like in order to do spiritual growth, I have to learn and I have to grow and I have to keep practicing. And even the words we use, we're guilty of that. Practice medication, practice meditation. Let me get that clear. And it sounds heavy, but it really isn't. And I think that idea of using it as like exploration and curiosity, it lights a fun fire within us, because if we're curious about something, we don't have judgments. We're actually
yeah,
open to whatever comes. We have no expectation. We're curious. I wonder where this leads. And it's like
yeah,
walking into the unknown, but like you're walking into a theme park that you don't know what rides you're going to expect, but there's going to be rides. It's a different kind of energy that we can bring to it. And one of the things that I love relating to joy, use it as a GPS.
mm,
Use it as this brings me joy, however that feels for you, and follow that energy, follow that happiness. Does this thing that I'm going to do now, am I curious about it? Am I excited about learning this? Am I not excited about learning this? And that's okay. But if you use joy as a GPS, think of all the different adventures and explorations that you can
mm.
do that you never even thought of. But you have a tool, which is your own energy, that tells you you're feeling this sounds cool, or yeah, no, that's a no for me.
Yeah, and we have to be honest with ourselves too.
Hmm.
I
Yes.
think as well, because some people, like I said, get into this very rigid mindset of this is what the journey is supposed to be, that they don't find joy in the journey. And
Yes.
then and I find that we will do things more when we feel good about it. So if you really want to have that growth, find ways that you enjoy to experience that growth, and then you will keep doing it and you will keep growing. And that's where, what we're talking about, it's like those little things that will help you in your growth. And where I'd like to challenge people to look out to think outside the box as well on what spiritual growth is and how that can be accomplished. Yes, you can get there by reading scripture. You can get there by reading, the Yoga Sutras. You can get there by doing this. And those are all very good tools. But if you don't enjoy sitting and reading, you're not going to sit and read.
Or if you don't enjoy what you're reading.
Or if you don't enjoy what you're reading, you're not going to sit and read.
Yeah.
So what are some other ways that you can do your growth journey that, like you said, lights your fire, that
Mhm.
feeds your soul, that you feel good about, that brings you joy, well, happiness and joy are two different things. So, but you can find happiness in it too, but it's like, yeah, what, and this is where body awareness too, I believe, comes into play as well, because when we are honest with ourselves and we're trying to be authentic and we are paying attention to our bodies, and this is where I'm always talking about the mind body connection here. Our bodies will tell us what is resonating with us and what isn't. It's like if you start doing something and you don't like it and your body is tensing up or your stomach is in knots, guess what? That's probably not for you. But if you start doing something and then all of a sudden you just kind of get this smile on your face or your brain's going, woo, guess what? That's probably a good way for you to go.
Yeah.
But we have to be honest with ourselves and we have to have that awareness of what our bodies are saying to us in order to understand, what is truly feeding us.
Yes. And can I diverse it just a
Please
second?
do. Please do.
Because I think, and two different clients are coming in my head, and we've had several. I mean, again, we're all human, we all do this. And this is the reason I want to bring it up. But two people in particular I'm thinking of, we have to be aware of what you're saying. We have to be aware within our own body what our body's telling us. Do we like what we're doing or do we don't? But
Hmm.
what I want to bring in is this what brings us joy? Or are we doing this because we think it's going to bring in the other person joy?
Yes.
Because sometimes I don't want to say we fool ourselves, but we convince ourselves that we enjoy doing this. But it's mostly because we know the person or the family or the daughter or the spouse or whatever it is, they're the ones that enjoy it. But authentically, we're not 100%.
Yeah.
So that's something very soft line that we also need to be aware of, because is it really bringing you the joy?
Yeah.
And that's something very important. That's something very key in what you said. Our body tells us, and sometimes we ignore what our body is yelling, because it gets to a point it's yelling and we ignore it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, and to carry on with your point about making sure it's something that brings you joy, not someone else. That's the whole point of being honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so many people, and and I admit I have been guilty of it myself, do
Same.
things to please someone else, and it's not really what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's not your journey. And it's okay if it's not your journey, because everyone has their own journey that they need to walk, and it's not going to be the same as someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
You both could start off in the same place, but your destinations may be something totally different. And that
Exactly.
and that's okay. That is okay. But that's the reason why it's important to be honest with yourself and to use those body awareness clues if you need to really find out what it is that brings you joy and feeds your soul, because it's your journey, it's your life, and you're the one who has to live it. So,
Agreed, 100%. And it's part of going back to that curiosity. Yes, follow the curiosity and try it. But once your GPS says, okay, this is the end of it, we're having no more fun here, it's
Yeah,
having that awareness to say, okay, I'm jumping off this one and I'm going to try something else. I mean, so we can try something for somebody else and be curious because we do grow that way.
right.
Maybe, maybe we wouldn't have experienced something. But the point is, once we realize that, yeah, that's not what's bringing us joy, then change.
Yeah.
Look for something different. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would encourage those that are listening to just try different things. Just try some stuff. If you're curious about it, try it. What's the worst that can happen? You don't like it. Okay, you don't like it, don't do it anymore. But try
Exactly.
it, try something, which we're going to talk about a little bit here as well about some different things that I like that are really good for play that also fosters that whole spiritual growth aspect of things too. But, we'll get there in just a little bit. But yeah, try something. So we're going to go back a little bit to the science again, because, again, I'm the science girl. So and so we're gonna talk a little bit about the science-backed benefits of play. I know that sounds very, very ooh. So you may be wondering, what does science say about the benefits of play for spiritual growth? Or if you're not wondering, I'm still gonna tell you anyway. So so one of the things, we've already talked about, how playfulness reduces cortisol levels, but it also boosts what we call neuroplasticity, which is a big word. And then you guys can probably Google it if you want to. It's a big word, but it's the wiring in our brains. Okay. And neuroplasticity, when you think of neuroplasticity, it's basically the ability of the brain to rewire itself. This is what gives us the mental clarity. And when we're trying to grow spiritually and we're endeavoring in spiritual practices, we do kind of need that mental clarity to understand what we're doing and what's going on and how it's affecting us. So play actually has a science basis on how this can help us. Fun activities like, somatic yoga, which I love, can not only help release tension, but it can also deepen your connection with your body along with that neuroplasticity, which gives you the mental clarity. So although you're playing, you're also growing. So why not do both, right? And when we have that reduced cortisol, it can also increase our creativity, hence neuroplasticity, and it can help us release that emotional stress as well. So it's really good for emotional release. And I got to tell you, in a lot of the work that I do, I can absolutely tell you that many times when people are having issues in their physical body, even in their mind as well, there is some sort of emotional stress that is going on. And so these joy practices can help you with all of that emotional release as well. And that just has to be one of the biggest benefits ever. Okay. It's like if you're stressed and you're upset and everything, and you turn on some music and you go dancing around your house, what happens? Eventually, it's like you're not stressed anymore. You might still be upset over what happened, but it's not bringing you down as much as it was. And
Mhm.
now you're smiling and you're dancing and you're doing all those kind of things. That's what we're talking about. That is how play and having fun can help you grow. So, what's your take on this? Have you seen how that kind of dynamics can change energies or whatever? What's your take on it?
No, completely. Let's start with the fact, like the normal fact. Children learn through play. Why
Absolutely.
do we think that as adults we're going to be any different? And now from the spirituality, why do we think that because it's spiritual we can't play? And this could be a topic for another show. But for me, many of the religions and practices and everything that quote unquote taught spirituality in whatever which way We're very conditioned, we're very strict, and we're very dogmatic. You do not play. I was raised Catholic. You do not play in church. You do not laugh during this. You do not like there's these whole bunch of you do not Jews. We start shutting ourselves down. So when we go back to spirituality, obviously we're like, we have to be serious. So I completely agree with the laughter. I completely agree with playing. I completely agree with everything. Just laughter itself dissolves blocked energies. When you're
Yes.
feeling stagnant, and it's kind of what you just said, when you're feeling stagnant, when you're feeling stuck, whichever way, you're just feeling stuck, you're feeling heavy, you're feeling that. Laugh. We're on YouTube. There's so many things on YouTube
Mm.
that you can find babies giggling. Who does not laugh after a certain point of watching those laughter attacks of these babies? It's
I'm
contagious.
laughing thinking about it.
Exactly. And then you see their cheeks, and then you keep laughing, and then it gets to a point that you can't stop. And that is so good for your spirituality, for everything you just said on the health wise, the physical wise, but even on the spiritual side, because we are energy. Our spirit is energy. We just like to use the word spirituality and spirit, but we're energy.
Yeah.
Laughter, joy, happiness, all these things, dance, movement raises our vibration. The
Yes.
higher vibration we are, the smoother and better things work out. How does a quantum universe do that? I have no clue. I don't care, although I do because I'm a nerd as well. But the point is, it is so good to feel that way. And sometimes we forget. And
Yes.
sometimes we go through years and decades or days or whatever it is that we forget to laugh. We get so quote unquote real with whatever's happening in our situation. Things that I've done in healing practices, which people look at me like, are you insane? I'm like, yeah, probably, but it works. Use your imagination. Like, have tea with your ancestors. If you want to work with your ancestors and talk to them, imagine you're having tea. Imagine you're playing with your grandmother. Imagine having fun.
Yeah.
It's there's so many different ways that we can have fun and have practice, and it doesn't have to be so serious. There's a thing called laughter yoga.
Yes. That's actually number one on my list to share of different exercises.
I beat you to it. I'm kidding. But and that's the thing. It's like we can use so many different things. Like
Yeah.
I remember there was once that I was doing a healing, and there was like a stuck energy that wouldn't move. And I was like, how do I clean this up? And my brain went, cleaning, Windex, done. And I imagined a cleaning bottle like a Windex, and it
Mhm.
literally, the label I put on it, literally, I remember said something like unstuck energies. And in my mind, I cleaned the energy field of the person, and it worked. Person felt great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have fun. I mean, there's nothing wrong with fun. Nothing.
Absolutely. And and you said it. It's about conditioning, and this is part of the limiting beliefs too that I often will talk about, that comes from those childhood upbringings and everything. You mentioned that, you grew up Catholic and it was very staunch, this is what you do. And I think many religions are that way. I too, grew up in a church as well. And it was very much rule driven,
Mhm.
and that kind of sticks with us. And then as adults, when um, we get exposed again to the word spirituality, we immediately go back to being a child, having to sit still in church,
Uh-huh.
get your hand slapped or whatever discipline was done in that day. By the way, we're older, so yeah, back then you absolutely would get your hand
What
slapped
happened?
or something. So, unlike today's generation, it's like, but um, so I think when we hear the word spirituality or we get approached with spirituality, we immediately go back there because we have been conditioned, and that has become part of our limiting mindset of this is what spiritualness means. And you said it, it's like we're energy, we're a spirit. And it reminds me of the saying that we have to remember that we are a spirit with the body, not a body with the spirit.
Right.
And many people either don't know that or they forget that. And when the body's gone, the spirit will live on. So it's like, so what feeds it? What feeds your soul? It's okay to have a little fun. Even like some churches, I'm sure, they have fun in church. I hope they do, but we just have to get out of this mindset that it has to be this rule driven, linear thing. And it's so much more than that. It is so
Mm-hmm.
much more than that. And that's where the challenge is. And that's the reason why we're having this conversation, is to help people challenge what that is. You and I have had a conversation before about purpose and passion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you feed your spirit, it helps you to understand your purpose more and define your passion.
Right.
But you have to be able to go within and know what feeds you. What is your spirit?
Right.
What does it need? You know?
Right. And I think another point is that we're talking about like conditioning and the limiting beliefs. The fact that a lot of us don't celebrate joy or have fun for joy is because we've been raised in a culture that, and let's not even talk about spirituality, just in life. We've been raised in a culture that there's no time for fun. You have to work.
Yeah.
There's no
True.
time for fun. You have to raise your kids. There's no time for you and your activities. The house needs to be taken care of, or the this needs to be taken care of. So I think a lot of us also forgot that it's okay. It's like if they need a permission slip, this is probably it. It is okay to set time for fun and for joy because
Yeah.
we've been told everywhere that we can't.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're listening and you are waiting for a sign, this is your sign. It's okay.
It's okay. Permission slip granted.
Exactly. And say to yourself, I give myself permission to experience joy.
Beautiful.
Sometimes, as odd as that sounds, sometimes I found that saying it out loud helps many people to be able to release that. Giving yourself permission
Mm-hmm.
to do this
Mm-hmm. And
and
at the same
recognizing
time,
this.
I'm
What was
sorry.
that?
And I was going to say at the same time, having them hear you say it also triggers it for them.
Yeah.
She gave me permission because sometimes we can't give it ourselves and believe it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we did kind of go a little bit along the church route, the religious aspect, or you know, there are so many different spiritual practices out there that has a very definite structure to it. And I think that's what puts people off. So let's circle back around and discuss how we can incorporate fun into traditional spiritual practices.
Hmm.
All right. So, all right. So we talked about meditation. That's actually pretty traditional, although it doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
There are different ways, to meditate. You can change it up instead of, oh, I got to sit here with my hands just so, and I have to chant and all that kind of stuff. Maybe change it up and you start visualizing yourself as a child exploring a magical garden. It like, was it the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when they go through the wardrobe and they're in Narnia or something? It's like, change it up instead of sitting there and being very strict and rigid. Change it up. We talked about laughter yoga. Laughter yoga is excellent for that. And you guys may be going, what the heck is laughter yoga? All right. So laughter yoga it's basically combining intentional laughter with yogic breathing exercises. And and it improves your mood, and it promotes a sense of well-being and all kinds of stuff. And one of the best ways to do it, and you may have done it as a child and didn't even realize that you were doing it, is you get a partner and you just sit and you look at each other until somebody starts laughing.
True.
And then once somebody starts laughing, the other person starts laughing. Then before you know it, you're both like laughing hysterically, and it's a genuine laughter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Laughter is good for the soul. I know you all have heard that expression before, and there is truth to that. Laughter is good for the soul. So, and there are different ways that you can do laughter yoga as well. There are other things too. You can do like dance or free movement, which is another one of my favorites. I like
Mm-hmm.
just putting on music and dancing through the house. Or sometimes I've said this before. Back in the day, I used to do clog dancing. Sometimes I go clogging. He asked me clogging, like Appalachian style clogging with the taps on the bottoms of the shoes. Yes. Um, Sometimes I'll go clogging on the tile in my kitchen, So it's like, there are so many things you can do. And that brings everything down. And if you really want to get into the science of it, you can look at things about the vagus nerve system, and the different states of being. Okay. And so we have this ventral state, which is where we want to be. This is the state of happiness. It's the top. Okay. And then we have like this stress state, which is kind of in the middle. It's the fight or flight. And then there's like the dorsal state. And this is the shutdown mode, when things have just been just so stressful for so long that your body and your soul and your mind are just about to give up. And this is like, when people like, have like burnout and breakdown or whatever. So there is very specific states in the body that correspond to movement and how we're feeling and the things that we're doing. And you absolutely can use some of these things to bring yourself from this stress state, this fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn, up to this ventral state where you can find the happiness and the joy, and you can see, visions of the future, and, just kind of just have this better well-being. And when the vagus nerve is happy, because that vagus nerve goes all through the body and it wraps around all these organs and stuff, it helps everybody else in the body be happy. Okay, so there is definite science there. So some of the other things, and then I'm going to ask Angelica some of her favorites. And by the way, I don't have this available yet, so if you're listening to it live, it'll be available soon. If you listen to the replay, it's probably already there in my free resources. But I did like create like a little checklist of different types of activities that are basically like somatic practices that also help release tension and invite healing into the body. And laughter yoga was first on my list, which we were talking about. And then, of course, playful dance and movement. And then I have animal inspired movement. Have you ever heard that one? That one is just like really fun, where you like pretending to be like an animal or move like an animal. It's great. You might find all kinds of stuff there. Or another one of my favorites is body shake, or some people call it shaking like a tree. I really love that one, particularly if I'm uber stressed, because it's something you can just do, especially like if you're sitting and at the computer all day and you're super stressed. Just stand up, and you literally, it's as easy as pie. You just stand up, relax your body, and then you start shaking your body. I usually start like by shaking my feet out each at a time, and then just start shaking all the way up my body, and then shake the entire body. And you just shake. I mean, it's like if you think of like a dog after the dog has a bath, and it goes. That's what you do. And oh my gosh, it makes you feel so much better. So there are so many other things that you can do that, yeah, they're fun, they're playful, but they also encourage you to connect to your inner self. And when you're connecting to your inner self, that's when you start growing spiritually. So what are some of your favorites?
I'm just laughing. I'm here. You said shake like a tree. I'm thinking of maraca, like the maraca.
Oh,
And that's another thing. So for me, one of the things again is music.
mhm.
I am Hispanic. I can put rock and I can put English music and I can shake and I can dance and I can do whatever. But if I put some Hispanic music, you better believe I'm shaking those hips and those shoulders and, just wiggling it all out. Because again, for me, dance is fun.
Yeah.
And I want to bring back to the thing when you just said about the animal. I have done that actually when I studied, and it's a fun story. When I studied alternative medicine, whatever, 15 years ago, one of the exercises was we're gonna be zoo animals today, and I
Mhm.
remember looking at him like, what? And he's like, yeah. And everybody started, and this is also something that people need to hear. When we're so uptight and when we're so down, sometimes you don't want to do these things. And as much as we may want to do them, we fight ourselves. That was me 15, 20 years ago when I studied
Yeah.
this. I was like, I don't want to act like an animal. Like, what's wrong with you? And I finally had to do it because I had to do it. And I remember I had chosen a rabbit. Okay, back up. He asked us to choose an animal before telling us what it was for. So I just chose a cute little rabbit. And then he's like, now you act like the animal. And I'm like, so I have to hop around the whole classroom like a rabbit. I fought it for a while. By the time I finished ended doing it, I was cracking up. And that's the thing. It's breaking out of that mold of
Yes.
seriousness, of conditioning, of that's silly, that's judgmental, that's, breaking out of all those molds. This is what all these practices do. So for me, yeah, I was laughing. Now for me, it's because I wrote them down. For me, it's meditation,
Hmm.
but not with like the typical Zen calm music. I actually put hype exercise music.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's a totally different shift.
Hmm.
I'm not going to say I meditate silence 100%, but even if I get to 50%, I feel so good. It's
Yeah.
like one of those meditation practices that I'm happier, I'm lifted, I'm
Yeah.
more creative during the day. You're upbeat, you have like a that swing on your step. So for me it's that. For me personally, because I do edit videos and everything myself for fun, that I like it as well. I actually create my own playlist again with like hype music and then like things I'm working on, affirmations or changing beliefs or reframing things. But I put it to hype music because for me, exercise and running is
Hmm.
the other one that gets me up and moving and it gives me joy. It really does. Not everybody. For me, it does bring me joy. Um, Example, being silly in moments that people come ill seriousness, and you and I have talked about it, and you have joined me in one of them. For example, my women's circles.
Yeah.
Let's play dress up. That's fun. Let's
Yes.
play dress up. Let's put on the tiara. Let's wear something that's different. When I work with women, it's come as colorful as you can be. Give me the wildest, most and the whole session we might not even talk about it, but it's that feeling of playfulness that you just
Yes.
bring about. Again, things don't have to be that serious.
Right.
And the one with the ancestors, like playing with the ancestors, I already talked about that one, but there's so many different ways that we can use our imagination. What did we like as kids? Try it.
Yeah.
Even if it was dinosaurs, like for the men, even if it was dinosaurs, even if it was superheroes, even if it was the hot cars. Imagine you're driving your Honda Accord or whatever car you have, but imagine it's one of those little hot cars and then that brings you joy. Like, why
Yeah.
do we forget to do these things? So,
Right.
those are some of the things for me that sometimes I randomly think of something, but there are times that I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And those are my go-tos, my
Yeah.
personal go-tos.
Awesome. Awesome. And the point is that what we're trying to make is that it can be almost anything.
Yeah.
Anything can become a spiritual growth practice. I mean, Angelica mentioned, running. Have, did you ever think that running could be spiritual growth for you? What brings you joy? It's about being able to go inward and discovering what it is that makes you tick.
Hmm.
If you like the structure stuff, that's fine too. If you enjoy it, please, absolutely do it. But we're only thing we're saying is that it doesn't have to be all structure and seriousness.
Right.
A little fun and play along the way will expand your growth that much more. Plus, it has the extra benefit of helping keep the cortisol down and keeping the brain active.
That's very important. And again, it's what brings us fun, right?
Right,
Because
exactly.
what may be fun for me is not fun for somebody else.
Right.
And what's fun for them isn't fun for me. But it's find for yourself what it is that brings it, and try it. And the day you get bored, do something else.
Yeah. Well, I had, oh, where did I put it? Here it is. I wanted to show this because this is one of those things. It's like, think outside the box. One day I just decided, you know what? I bought this little thing here.
Oh,
And I just love the sounds that it makes. It's just a little just a little tiny steel drum, right? And it comes with like a little songbook with kid songs in it and stuff. And
yeah.
it's like, I've never played. I play instrument, but I've never played the steel drum. And it's like one day I'm just like, that looks fun. I'm just going to buy that. And I had the best time learning to play the steel drum, starting with like little kid songs. So it's like things like that. It doesn't have to be anything uber structured. It really doesn't. And that's the whole point we're trying to make. It's whatever that you can find that brings you joy, that helps you go within, that can help you have that mental clarity, that can help you on your growth path, whatever that is. Which brings me to the next point is about self-expression. What brings you joy and the things that you do can also help you reconnect to your authentic self and help you be able to express yourself
Hmm.
more authentically. I think many of us, and I'm guilty of this too, um, I think many of us, particularly in this day and age of social media, we present this curated view of ourselves to others, which may or may not be fully authentic to who we are.
Right.
Okay. So being able to express yourself in some way authentically also goes a long way with your spiritual growth and on your path on the journey that you're on. Because when you're feeling stifled, I mean, I know a lot of people, they work in these corporate jobs, been there, done that, and you have to present a certain image. I
Hmm.
get that. But then you end up stifling who you truly are to present that image. And so if you never have the opportunity to let loose and be authentic with yourself, then you continue to be stifled and in this stuck state. And that's part of what pushes you into those lower states of being, which can also lead to that burnout and everything else. And that's kind of like a spiritual breakdown, disconnection, and all of that stuff. So I'd like to hear your take on this, on the joy as a path to also to self-expression and being authentic with ourselves.
Oh boy, we're gonna take this somewhere else right now.
I know we always do with you.
That's exactly why. So, okay, yes, I have the spirituality talk show. Being authentic on social media and this and that, like that's why I raised my hand, because yes, been there, done that, exactly what you're talking about. Because okay, Facebook. What's Facebook? Your family, friends, and then followers, and then people that get to meet you, blah 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 blah. Even though half of the people know me because of the spirituality talk show and know me about all those different topics, there's also people, quote unquote, family or friends that don't believe in the things that I believe in, but we're still connected and whatever.
Mhm.
I would always stop myself from writing certain things or certain beliefs because what if they get upset? What if I say the wrong thing and certain people? What if, all these questions? So you start limiting yourself. But the other part to that is also I do the boudoir photography. I like the sensuality. I like all
Mhm.
those different topics and I empower women with all those topics. And I also catch myself censoring less and less and less. I'm not 100% there yet, but I find myself less and less and less censoring myself. What do I share? What do I post? How are people going to take it? How are people going to? But those things are fun for me. It's
Yeah.
fun for me to be able to say, dress up in the sexiest clothes that you have and be okay with it. And don't think that it's going to be other people are going to judge us for that. It's just a matter of what is true for you. Like even the spirituality, and I'm going to take it now a different realm, just a tad. I grew up with a different version of spirituality. What I know today, what I understand today is very different to what I grew up with. Until I didn't come to peace with that other part of my life, now that I came to peace with it, I can talk about it more open. Things that are fun for me are creating little rituals. Like these are things I would have never said before.
Mhm.
I would hold myself back. For me, it's playing the witch. It's creating the spells and doing the this and having the power to say I can, I don't know, light a candle and say this incantation and it's all intention and energy. But for me it's a fun way to go about it. And those are the things that we have to find. What authentically brings you joy? If it's things like that people still consider wrong or taboo or judgmental, but it's fun for you, then there's nothing wrong with it. We have to stop censoring our fun
Yeah.
even with those things. So I kind of went off a spin, but yeah, that's where I was going.
Yeah, that one's definitely a spin. Yeah. And um when I work with my clients too, one of the first things I always tell them is that, no judgment from me ever. It's like you may believe differently than I do,
Hmm.
but that doesn't matter. There's no judgment from me. And because I feel like we go around judging other people so much, and we as a society,
Hmm.
uh, and we judge ourselves. And when we come from a place of judgment, it's always going to feel stressful.
Yeah.
It's always going to feel intimidating. And I think we we should all be a little less judgmental. I'll just stop at that. So, um, but I just wanted to real quick to like in my book, my newest book, by the way, I actually have an entire chapter where I talk about the spirit's role in healing. And one of the the points I make in it is about creative expression and how creativity is a powerful form of spiritual expression, whether it's through art, music, writing, or another creative outlet. Engaging in creative activities allows you to connect with your spirit and express your true self. So, and when you do that, many people find that creativity opens the door to spiritual insight and healing. So, that's what we're talking about. That joy, that fun, opening up the creativity. Creativity is more than just art and music. Creativity is also about creating the life that you want. And in creating the life that you want, you have to understand who your authentic self is and what you truly want to make that happen. And
Right.
being able to approach the spiritual development in a manner that is joyful to you will help you be able to do it just that much better, I think. So, yeah. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. So,
Good. I like it. I like it. And it's true. Creativity is a connection through spirit. Anything we do creatively is sent through the spirit, and there's nothing more amazing and fun and lighthearted than that. And we all feel it. We can call it whatever it is.
right. And that's what I would like to challenge everybody is that I know the word spiritual has this heavy meaning to it for most people. I challenge you to look at it a different way. Don't maybe don't call it spiritual development. Maybe call it soul development or authentic self development or some other word to take that loaded charge out of it to allow you to be able to explore beyond the rigidity of organized whatever.
Right.
So, anyway, alrighty. So, we're coming close to the end of our time here. So, we've talked about integrating fun and play into spiritual growth as not only healing, but it's also essential to deepening our self awareness and joy. And we've given you all kinds of different types of different ways that you can do that. That's fun. That's also healing and spiritually developing. We've talked a little bit about limiting beliefs and how what we think about what spirituality is can affect how we go about it. And so we've also have offered you some ideas on changing that and getting outside of the box. So, what is it that you want to do? What are some things that you can take away from this to, to develop yourself, to go within yourself, develop your self-expression, to have more creativity, to have more fun that's going to allow you to grow wherever it is that you want to grow or you need to grow? What's going to get you to the next part of your journey? So I challenge you to think of different ways where you can still be spiritual, but have fun doing it. So before we sign off, Angelica, would you like to leave us with something?
I think the most beautiful part to everything is don't believe us, try it for yourself. You have the permission slip and just figure out what's fun and you'll be fine.
There you have it. There you have it. All right. So thank you for joining us again today. Remember, Angelica joins me every third Friday of the month where we talk about the spirit side of the body, mind, and spirit. You can catch some of the other shows, though, on the other weeks, and you can also watch the replays on our channel. So thanks again and join us next time. And until then, remember, wellness isn't a destination. It is your daily journey. Bye for now.
Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Living Naturally for Life and angelicadelcarmen.com. Comment, like, subscribe.